between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everybody and welcome to the start of a whole new touring car season. The MSL FastR Touring Car eSeries with PowerMax Racing, powered by VRRC, is set to get underway. Welcome to a virtual Brands Hatch as we get set for what promises to be a very entertaining brace of races. Qualifying to come first of all, and then two 20-minute plus one lap dashes around a circuit that always lends itself to good, close, fierce racing. This is David Addison. I'm joined by Andy McEwan for what promises to be a really entertaining championship, Andy, with a great mix of real-world drivers and sim drivers as well.
Yeah, it's going to be really competitive, I think, isn't it? Scanning up and down the entry list, as I have been doing over the course of the week, there are some really interesting names there, many of whom you will be familiar with if you watch real-world, not only touring car racing, but real-world racing in general. But a few of these sim drivers, I think, are really going to be keen to prove themselves. We've seen this in the past when we've got this sort of mix of competition between real-world pros and sim racers. The sim racers have a bit of a point to prove, and I think this is all going to come together to produce a great season of racing across some of the best racetracks in the country. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, this is the plot for the day, indeed for the format of the championship. We have a 15-minute qualifying session that will kick off in about 9 minutes' time. Then we go to the first race, 20 minutes plus one lap. The results of that will sort out the grid for race 2, but you reverse the top 12, and the two races, as you see, 20 minutes each, but there will be the, if you like, regulation lap tagged on at the end. The drivers have already been spending quite a bit of time on track, brackets in the server, for free practice, and the top two proving to be real-world drivers, Mike Epps and Callum Newsham, but qualifying coming up soon is going to be fascinating, and indeed to see who will leave Brands Hatch as the championship leader before we go to Donington, then the Ireland Bend circuit at Alton Park, the 300 layout of Snetterton, Knock Hill, Silverstone, both national and international, and we will finish as befits a touring car championship on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch on the 20th of March. So some great racing coming up. And on social media, people are asking, who do you think we ought to put our money on? Well, it's wide open, all of this, isn't it? We have got, of course, some very impressive drivers, Andy, from the real world with sim experience. But then you've got people like Jack Keithley, who happens to be a massive touring car fan anyway, who is part of the Williams esports team, absolutely specialises in the sim world.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a real knack to sim racing. I think a lot of people assume that if you're good in a real racing car, you can instantly transfer those skills over into the sim. But it isn't quite that simple. If you were to ask any of the real world drivers we've got racing with us today, they'll all tell you the same thing. But a handful of them I've seen racing in other similar competitions. They've done quite well. And they are the people who already in practice are performing well. Mike Epps, certainly a driver that I have my eye on. He's been a podium finisher in online sim racing competitions in the past. And as you can see here, he tops the practice times. But David, the thing that I'm really noticing from these practice times is just how tight it is. We've got the top 22 drivers covered by less than a second. I know it's a short circuit, but that's always a fascinating stat and a really mouth-watering one, because it means we're going to have a close qualifying session and a pair of really close races at a track where overtaking isn't super easy to do, but in touring cars we do tend to see plenty of action. I think looking at how tightly bunched the grid is already, that's definitely what we're in for this afternoon.
Absolutely right. We've got just over 7.5 minutes of the practice session to go before we get to qualifying. The other nice thing about this, of course, being the first round, is that the championship will, as we go to future events, include the ballast, but qualifying and race one, of course, will be ballast free because it's the opening event of the championship. So we get a chance to have a look at, as in the real world, the natural pace of the cars. And the cars are a good mix. You've got Volkswagen Golfs, you've got Peugeot 308s, you've got the Hyundai i30, Honda Civic Type R, and the Cupra Leon and Audi RS3 are in the mix as well. So a 25-strong entry, but a good mix of different cars across that entry. And Robbie Stapleford with the Cupra Leon, I think, is going to be another driver to watch. He's the only one, I think I'm right in saying, with that Cupra. So interesting to see how that fares up against the perhaps more familiar hot hatches that he's going to be up against. But yes, to make the point again, it is wide open, and it's going to be really intriguing to see who comes out on top. Also, you've got that family battle between Callum Newsham and his dad, because former British Touring Car Championship race winner Dave Newsham is in the entry as well, in the Northcott Vending Hyundai against the Newsham racing car of his son Callum. So you've got the two of them determined to prove who is the better, and also the, if you like, two different classes, who's going to come out on top of the real or indeed the sim categories as we go through the race. 25 cars is going to make for a very, very busy time around here. Finding clear track space in qualifying, Andy, is going to be key, I think, certainly to a decent result in race one, because you've got to do some of the work in qualifying, haven't you?
Yes, well, quite a lot of it, I think, because, as we've said, the field is very evenly matched. So, you know, if you're only capable of going half a tenth quicker than the car in front of you, that isn't usually enough for you to be able to simply pull out and drive straight past them easily. You're going to have to work for every single overtake. So the higher up the grid you can start, it sounds obvious, doesn't it, the better your chances going into the races. But that qualifying itself is going to be fraught with challenges. As we can see from the shot here from the top of the circuit up at Druids, the time of day and weather conditions are set to winter, essentially, because it is winter now. It's set to real time. So there's a bit of frost on the grass. The track temperature is going to be very, very low indeed. And that means bringing those tyres up to temperature is not going to be the work of 1 or even 2 laps. It might take you 3 or 4 before you're into that sweet spot where you've got the grip. And by that point, you're deep into the qualifying session. So once you've got those tyres into the window, you really have to get your head down and nail 1 or 2 fast laps. And that is something that maybe you could see the real world racers have a little bit of an edge with. That's what they do week in, week out when they're racing out in, you know, GT racing or touring car racing in the real world. And we have seen in the past in sim racing competitions, they seem better at getting the tyres and getting the car up to speed a little bit more quickly maybe than the sim racers.
It is going to be intriguing, and what will also be fascinating as we go through the championship is to see how some of those real-world drivers with limited sim knowledge progress, how far forward they get, and whether, you know, noticeably drivers are improving as you go through the year. I very much doubt it is going to be the same order all the way through. Senna Proctor is one of those from the real world, and the BTCC race winner drives his familiar number 18. So at the moment, showing 7th on the side of the car, 6th in the time as he breaks the beam. Number 18, Senna Proctor, then goes by on the tail of Mick Sutton. He's going to get another 2, maybe 3 laps out of this free practice session. Mick Sutton just up the road ahead of him, new to sim racing, and going straight on is Martin Richards, the drift star, who is a Powermax supported driver in drifting. Whoops, Senna Proctor and Mick Sutton come to grief there, coming out of Druids. So as Kenny Press arrives on the scene, going up to the top of the hill, and Isaac Smith goes through Druids as well, it's all starting to kick off. You can tell it's touring cars, Andy, can't you?
Yeah, this is only a free practice session, I'll remind you, but yes, they are not usually backwards and coming forwards, are they? And Senna Proctor in particular, known to be fond of getting stuck in out on circuit. Of course, had a real breakthrough result, didn't he, Senna, at Brands Hatch a few years ago in the British Touring Car Championship, which very much put him on the map. I seem to recall it was a bit of a wet-dry or dry-wet race. I forget which way around it was now, but he is handy around here and running 6th place at the moment. Number 25 car we're seeing on screen now heading through as well, and that is Craig Keeble, 17th quickest at the moment in the Audi, but again 17th fastest, only just over 6.5 tenths of a second away from the top time. But the Audi TCR car, which is a very popular one indeed, and it's had a lot of success in real-world international TCR competition as well. Not surprising, perhaps, that many drivers are choosing it, but it's worth making the point that one of the joys of this TCR format is the cars do go through this quite strict balance of performance procedure, which should, in theory, mean that no particular car has a strong advantage. You may find that it's a bit circuit-specific, so the Hyundais are very good usually on long straights, whereas the Hondas perhaps are slightly better on the brakes. But generally speaking, the particular car the drivers have gone for shouldn't make a huge difference. It's all down to what they can do with it.
Well, we are going to get ready for qualifying in a moment or two. First of all, though, let's have a quick look at what a lap around the Brands Hatch Indy circuit is like, courtesy of Dave Marshall.
Hi, I'm Dave Marshall, driver of the number 66 1010s coach powered by VRRC car. This is my on-board lap of Brands Indy. So we're going to grab 6th gear just as we go across the line here down towards turn 1. Very tricky braking point. See the car's very unbalanced, so we just use a little bit of throttle to keep the balance of the car there. Up towards Druids, brake just underneath the bridge, down 2 gears. Going to be quite early on the throttle here. You can see we grab a bit of curb there, which is not ideal, but down to Graham Hill Bend, 4th gear on the brakes hard, rolling off to carry that mid-corner speed. See we get nice corner exit traction there, and up towards these S's. Now we're always looking left to try and find that crease between the 2 curbs there. Missed the curb on the right, braking hard, but you almost want to 4-wheel slide it into the last corner, you know, a little bit of brake and rear traction. See we've got nice on the power over the crest there, down towards the finish line. Going to grab 6th again and hope that's good enough for pole.
Well, I believe we're suffering 1 or 2 minor technical issues, the server just being restarted, so we will be bringing you qualifying in a moment or 2. But watching that onboard lap there, it is easy to forget, isn't it, sometimes, that this is not the real thing. It's the way that the Assetto Corsa platform that we're using for this series has evolved in recent years in particular. It really is hyper-realistic, and watching the steering inputs, the throttle inputs, you have to do everything you have to do in a real car to be quick in a sim as well, and it always fascinates me to ride on board with people who've been clearly doing it for quite a long time and have built up a lot of speed over that time as well. So yes, qualifying on its way imminently for you. That will be, I remind you, a 15-minute qualifying session. So they have got time to have a couple of goes in it, potentially, go for a few fast laps and then maybe come in and change tyres and go again. That's, again, a tactic that we see fairly often in the real world touring car world. Getting those rear tyres up to temperature is the real challenge, and as I said earlier on, the wintry conditions today certainly aren't going to make that any easier. So that qualifying session, as I said, will set the grid for the first race, and picking a winner, we were sort of debating this, myself and David, earlier on. It's rather a challenge, but looking at some of the comments we're getting through on social media, it looks like Mike Epps is getting a lot of love at the moment. A lot of people saying that Mike is going to be one of the favourites this afternoon. I should say Max Bird as well. Lots of people reckon that it could boil down to a battle between the pair of them. Dave Newsham, or in fact both of the Newshams, garnering plenty of support online as well. Do keep your messages coming in. We'll try, if we can drag our eyes away from the action on the screen, we'll try and keep monitoring those social media messages for you. And if you've got any questions or any shout outs or anything in particular you'd like us to discuss, then do feel free to drop us a message and we'll do our best to answer them. Reminder here then of the format. The 60-minute practice session is just completed. Qualifying is just around the corner. 15 minutes to set the grid for race 1, which is 20 minutes plus 1 lap. And the second race, as David was saying earlier on, another 20-minute plus 1 lap race, but with the top 12 finishers from race 1 reversed to form the grid for race 2. And as myself and David are both very familiar with, if you give a bunch of tin top drivers a reversed grid race to end the day's racing, things tend to happen. Exciting things, usually, as some of the quick drivers are forced to try and work their way up through the field. So the grid then will be set in the very near future, and as we saw then in that practice session, very, very little to choose between the I was going to say the top drivers, but actually the whole field. I think the entire field, we had about 24 cars went out on circuit just now, and every single one of them were within about a second and a half of each other, but the top 20, I think it was 22, were covered by just 1 second. So it is going to be a very competitive a couple of races, I think, and as we were making the point earlier on, Brands Hatch Indy Circuit is not an easy place to overtake. There are a couple of places you can do it. Into Paddock Hill Bend is one of the obvious choices, but that in itself is fraught with danger. There's a big bump on the entrance to the corner, very easy to lose control of the car and clatter into the side of the person you're trying to overtake. If you don't get it done at Paddock Hill Bend, though, you've got Druids, the hairpin at the top of the hill, pretty easy to defend into there, but that's where sometimes we see the old bump and run tactic come into force, where the drivers might just lean on the car in front, try to ease them wide, and that is a place where you can execute an overtake. The other place, of course, where we do see a lot of overtaking is clearways at the end of the lap, the tricky sort of tightening right-hander. You go through the quick left-hander at Surtees, the right-hand kink at McLaren, and then straight on the brakes whilst turning, which is a difficult thing to do, into the tight right-hander at clearways. And again, you've got to be quite robust, really, to get the move made at that particular part of the circuit. So, qualifying then is underway, as you can see. I believe we may have lost David. We're trying to drag him back from the ether so that he can help us talk through the qualifying session, but for the time being, he's stuck with me, I'm afraid. But I will do my best to keep you abreast of what's happening. Left-hand side of the screen, we've got we'll have the times coming in. Of course, drivers still on out laps at the moment, trying to get some tyre temperature up, following the number 88 car then, which is the car of James Merrills, man from Barnsley, racing in his Honda Civic Type R, one of many real races. There are more real-world races than sim races, but that doesn't necessarily tell you the full story. Many of these real-world races will also have fairly extensive sim racing experience. Oh, and that's that cold rear tyre problem that I was on about. James Merrills losing the rear as he goes through Druids, and the right rear corner in particular is the one that they struggle to get up to temperature here, because there are only two left-handers on the whole circuit. That was one of them, Graham Hill, and this is the other, the very, very quick Surtees. It's not quite flat out in these TCR cars, but just a little bit of a lift off the throttle, settle the nose, get the car turned in, and on they go. So James Merrills, no doubt this lap is not going to be setting the timing sheets lap. For what it's worth, Max Bird is fastest on a 46.7, but we will see the lap times drop before too much longer. The 2 car now is the next one that we focus on. That is Ryan Elliott, and Ryan Elliott in the VW Golf, as we were saying earlier on. Not too many of those on the grid, and look, this is the problem. We've got over 20 cars on the circuit at the same time, and the track itself is not long enough to fit them all in, so getting clear air is virtually impossible. And Ryan Elliott, I think, doing the sensible thing there, just backing off, trying to find himself a little opening. But then when you find yourself some clean air, you start pushing, the car in front of you makes a mistake or something, drops back towards you, and then you're back in the traffic again, back suffering from the same sort of problems. Callum Newsham, the next that we will follow. Now, Callum and Dave running together here as teammates, essentially, but this father and son duo, thankfully, have thought of us poor commentators who often struggle to differentiate between identically liveried cars. As you can see, Callum's car has the red wheel rims, and Dave, his father, former race winner, of course, in the British Touring Car Championship, Dave Newsham, has the black wheel rims on his Hyundai i30N TCR. So we are now starting, I think, to see drivers getting down to the times we would expect. Mike Epps has gone top with a 46.425, a tenth of a second quicker than Dave Marshall in second place. Rob Butler is third, Max Bird fourth, Callum Newsham fifth, Senna Proctor sixth. So now the order starting to resemble the one that we saw in free practice, but still we're seeing drivers weaving around trying to generate as much tyre temperature as they can, and struggling to do so, I think, in many cases. 13th place then for Charlie Oliver. Got the handy little LED readout on the rear windows, you can see there, denoting which position the drivers are in. That's especially handy in qualifying, I suppose, when they're all jumbled up, but even in the races as well. Handy little identifier to tell how everyone's doing. And Charlie Oliver goes on to a lap, then plunges down through Paddock Hill Bend, up Halewood Hill and into Druids. Now you can see the difference here in grip levels now that he's got a little bit of tyre temperature back up. He's able to start pushing that little bit harder. So as he continues on his way, Max Bird, who was fastest a moment or two ago, has been dropped down to 5th position. Let's see whether the Honda can leap up the order. I mean, he's less than 0.2 of a second off pole position, and actually he doesn't improve and gets demoted to 6th position because Jordan Brennan goes ahead of him into P5. So Jordan Brennan then manages to drop Max Bird, former mini challenge front runner, down into 6th position. Callum Newsham also slipping down the order. We've had a few new names appearing towards the top, including Jack Keithley in 2nd position. I think that's a fairly recent improvement. 99 100ths of a second, 1,000ths of a second off pole position, which was good enough for 2nd. It's now only good enough for 3rd, though, because Dave Marshall has improved to 2nd, just 2 100ths of a second behind Mike Epps. So the top 3 drivers now covered by a fraction under 1/10 of a second, and that is as tight as it can get, pretty much. 10 minutes still left on the clock, though. There is Jack Keithley. Well, if that's not exceeding track limits at Graham Hill Bend, I don't know what is. Very, very wide coming out the tricky left-hander there for Keithley, and that might lead to the lap being invalidated. If nothing else, he'll have dirt on his tyres. The grass is frosty, so you'd imagine fairly damp as well. Not much grip out there. Let's see how it affected his lap time. Well, in the first sector, he is not improving. Keithley crosses the line, and yeah, much to no one's surprise, I think, he doesn't manage to improve on 3rd place. So Epps still quickest, Marshall 2nd, Keithley 3rd. In the pit lane are Rob Butler and Callum Newsham, 4th and 5th. You can see the little, we could see the little white letter P next to Rob Butler's name. He's just left the pit lane, but Callum Newsham still very much in the pits. His father Dave, though, pounding around the circuit still, runs a bit wide there out of paddock. Just dips 2 wheels into the gravel. Dave Newsham is a pretty handy peddler on the sim, actually. I've seen him race a few times, and he's not usually a million miles away from his son's pace. Indeed, only a couple of tenths behind him at the moment, but that is still going to be a difference of about 6 or 7 places. Miles Lacey in 16th position, also trying to improve. I'm looking for names that are further down the order than they should be. One that does rather jump out to me is Stuart Lyons, down in 20th place. Stuart was well within the top 15 or so in practice. He's actually the next car behind Miles. There he is. Look, the green and white Hyundai. A car that he is very fond of, I know, running with his Maximum Motorsport livery. Stuart Lyons, bit of a cult favourite in British motorsport, really, is Stuart. Former racer in the BTCC, of course, and still does like to get out in various different racing cars when time allows. Busy man is Stuart, though. Is he able to improve on 21st? No, is the answer, and he's 21st because we've had, again, more improvements, more drivers diving into the top 20. Ahead of the field, though, there is no change. Dave Marshall has dived for the pit lane, so no improvements imminent from him. Jack Keithley is 3rd. Rob Butler, we're following his 4th. Now, he was 3rd a second ago, but Keithley has just improved. So too, actually, is Mike Epps. And Mike Epps is moving the goalposts at the front of the field. A new fastest lap time of 46.425. And there is the Peugeot driver heading out of Graham Hill Bend, again using all of the runoff area there. And the former BTCC racer himself, Mike Epps, is not going to improve this time because he gets 2 wheels on the grass going out of going into the right-hander at clearways, and that, I think, may well have scuppered this particular lap. So, into the second half of the qualifying session now then. Who else is going to move up to challenge? I have to say I was expecting a bit more out of Max Bird here. He's definitely someone I'm watching to try and improve from in 7th position. There he is, just gone on to a hot lap. So let's follow him through. He's got some clear air in front. We ride on board now with Max Bird, in fact, heading up Halewood Hill under the pedestrian bridge. There is traffic ahead, which he'll be hoping against hope he doesn't catch before the end of the lap. Just about hooks up the apex there through Druids. Right out to the edge of the track and almost beyond the edge of the track going into Graham Hill. As seems customary, he uses all of the road and quite a lot more coming out of Graham Hill Bend, and then through Surtees he goes. Now, this is where we saw Mike Epps have a moment earlier on. It's so easy to run wide there, braking on a turn, and then as you turn into the corner you go over a crest, so the car wants to understeer out to the edge of the road. No such issues for Bird, though. His first sector is nothing spectacular. What's the second sector going to be? Likewise, really, picks up a little bit more time, but it's not enough to improve on 7th position. So Max Bird stays where he is. Top 3 drivers, though, all in the pit lane. So that is maybe going to give the likes of Callum Newsham and Jordan Brennan and Max Bird as well a little bit of hope that they might yet be able to move into the first few rows of the grid. myself and David were saying earlier on, qualifying is so important around here. It's not going to be easy to make huge amounts of progress, I don't think, especially in this first race where no one is running success ballast. There's no reversed grids to create a bit of drama and excitement in front of you. If you're going to make progress, you have to do it all by yourself, and even if you can gain 1 or 2 more positions on the grid, it's well worth doing, because you could spend the whole race trying to gain those 1 or 2 positions out on track. Mick Sutton has a couple more positions to gain than that. He's down in 21st at the moment, but again, less than a second, well less than a second away from the pole position time, which I remind you is still set by Mike Epps, a 46.425, which does mean that I think I'm right in saying everyone other than Kat Impey and James Merrills have set a lap time within a second of that time, though virtually the entire field covered by less than a second. There is Kat Impey in the 24th spot, number 23 Honda Civic. You're not going to miss that one in the crowd, are you? Very, very bright livery on that machine. He's just over a second off the pole position time, as you can see there as we just move to the bottom of the timing sheets. Stuart Lyons also perilously close to slipping outside that 1 second bracket in 23rd position. So just under 5 minutes then remain in the qualifying session. And the times at the top not looking likely to change, it has to be said. Mike Epps, I think, can be reasonably happy with the time that he set in the early stages, actually. That was one of the earlier laps that we had. And when he set that time, he probably maybe thought that he would have to go out and try and better it again, and he has been out to try and better it, but hasn't yet been able to. Mike definitely living up to his status as pre-season favourite. Will he be able to convert that into race wins? We've seen he's a good defensive driver, able to fend people off when under pressure. We've seen that on multiple occasions in both the real world and the sim world. James Merrill's on a good lap here. This looks like being an improvement. Yes, it is, and it's still 25th, but it is an improvement in time at least. Dave Marshall, right, this is important then, because this is the man that's second in the session at the moment, due to line up alongside Mike Epps on the front row, and he made a mess of Paddock Hill Bend, ran wide into the gravel, immediately bails out, so all of a sudden this lap is of slightly less significance than it was. So we can once again start checking in with some of those a little bit further down the order. This is the 20th placed car, the Audi of Craig Keeble, and coming through to complete his lap as well. Personal best lap time at the moment of a 47.2. As he moves through Paddock Hill Bend, Craig Keeble, one to watch definitely. I think he has really earned his place on the grid this season, and he was the lucky driver that won a grid slot in this car, and he'll really want to prove that he was deserving of the grid position. And Keeble 20th place at the moment, which is certainly not disgracing himself, just under 0.8 of a second away from the pole position time. And on this particular lap, I don't think we're going to see any huge improvements from him, but Craig Keeble comes through then to finish the qualifying session. 2.5 minutes still to go, so he's got time to keep improving. Callum Newsham likewise is back out there. Remember I said a few minutes ago that all of the front runners were in the pit lane. I think they were going for that tactic that I mentioned earlier on, a quick tyre change mid-session. Trouble is, it just takes you 2 or 3 laps then to get the new set of tyres into their operating window, so that's not leaving them with much time to improve. And Callum, if he wants to take pole position, needs to find over 1/10 of a second, which ordinarily wouldn't seem like a huge amount, but around this track it certainly is. Newsham, though, unfortunately is going no further, heads into the pit lane, and that is his session done, I would imagine now. Even if he got back out there, he's not going to get the tyres up to temperature quickly enough. Senna Proctor in 9th position. Again, thought we might have seen a bit more from him. 0.2 of a second off pole, still 0.2 of a second away from pole position. He heads into Paddock Hill Bend, fully committed over the curb. Look at that, all 4 wheels almost over the inside curb, but then he pays the price on the exit. You can carry all of the speed into the corner that you want, but it will usually mean that you run wide on the exit of the corner, as he did, and he went into the gravel trap. Max Goff now in another one of these Peugeots. I don't think I've ever seen so many Peugeots on a TCR grid, but it's proven to be a very popular car. Top 2 drivers in the session, of course, both running Peugeots, Mike Epps and Dave Marshall. Max Goff is 13th at the moment and would only need to find about 0.06 of a second to move into the top dozen. by a tenth of a second, he would be into the top 10. So just still striving to find these last few improvements. There's an improver, that's Will Powell, who moves up a position or two there into 15th place now, Will Powell, in the number 77 Honda. As he crests the rise into Druid's Corner, the Motor Swan backed car is going quicker now than it has been at any other point in the session. It's not right at the top of the screens, but nice to see that he is managing to improve his lap time here deep into the session. Right, I think, thankfully, because I haven't breathed for about 14 and a half minutes, I think I'm rejoined by David Addison. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and hopefully the outside world can hear me, which was an issue a moment ago. I'd like to pretend I went for a nice lunch somewhere, but it's not the case, Andy. If I'm a little bit tinny, apologies. Modern technology and I are not the best of friends, but we'll get there. But you've been holding the fort marvellously. I've been keeping one eye on what's been going on, as much as on the technology as well. And as you've been making the point, it is all building up very nicely indeed to a really good first race, this, isn't it? Because as the flag goes out, it is incredibly tightly matched, and Stuart Lyons goes rallycrossing, Mike Epps underlining his real world and sim world skills by going top of the times, albeit by a very narrow margin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 2/100ths of a second is virtually nothing, but as we were saying, that could make all the difference, couldn't it? Because starting on pole position, well, actually, I was going to say starting on pole position is a huge advantage, but we've seen, haven't we, Brands Hatch, pole position isn't necessarily the place you want to be from a standing start. So, well, might he regret getting that pole position? We'll find out in a few moments, I suppose. But yeah, absolutely right. Mike Epps looking as strong as we expected him to be.
And interesting to see as well, Jack Keithley, who I've still got my eye on. We've seen him go very, very well in, for example, things like the SRO eSeries. Williams eSports driver. I mean, he too is going to be a man to watch. He's going to start third on the grid. So Mike Epps tops the times from Dave Marshall, second fastest. Jack Keithley third. Callum Newsham fourth. Rob Butler fifth. And Charlie Oliver sixth. But a really good effort that, wasn't it, Andy, from Mike Epps to go top of the times.
With Mike Epps, because he joins us now in the commentary box. And Mike, that's not a bad start to the season, is it? I've been scanning through the social media messages, a lot of people tipping you to win the whole thing, and so far you're not disappointing them.
Yeah, it's just what I needed on lap 2 as well of quali. It's one of those where I just got an absolute stonker in, and I thought I'm going to struggle to better that. So yeah, I actually took an Amazon delivery about 5 minutes into the session because I heard the doorbell go, so I'm glad I got it in that early.
That is the definition of cool, calm and collected. I hope you're nice and psyched up now, though, because I think this race is going to be pretty intense, isn't it? You're starting on pole, but it's going to be hard to stay there.
Yeah, race pace is going to be something to, I guess, find out about here. Obviously, this is the only round, I think, all season, these two races, where we're all going to be on the same weight. And the cars change quite a lot with weight, slightly more than in real life, I think. So this would be a good comparison between us all for the first round, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I've done a little bit of long run testing, but hopefully the progress I've made is as good as my quali pace.
Well, we're about to find out, because the first race of the season isn't far away. Mike, congratulations on pole position. Best of luck for the race.
Cheers, mate. Actually quite nervous, so I'm going to get excited for this one.
Cheers, Mike. Well then, David.
So we'll get the cars out on track very shortly. Mike Epps with that very, very good effort for pole position. And lining up with him at the front of the grid, Dave Marshall. So the two of them set for the run down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Dave Marshall, the semi-professional drummer who won the Mini E-Series last year. He will get a real-world Mini outing, part of his prize for that. Jack Keithley on the second row with Callum Newsham for company. So it's going to be very competitive indeed between certainly the first two rows of the grid. And I think we're also going to find, in true touring car fashion, lots of good fights, Andy, all the way up and down the order as well. Yeah, it's going to be a job to know where to look next, isn't it? Because everyone is pretty evenly matched with everyone else. So expect some drama, expect a little bit of argy-bargy maybe in the midfield. But at the front, I think the stage is set for a really fiercely contested race. Indeed so. Right, we are just about set to go racing then. There you can see Mike Epps on pole position. Yes, you're right. Ultra cool if you can take an Amazon delivery. There's one car in the pit lane, I noticed. We've also got the drivers then, this one-by-one staggered grid ready to go. And it is going to be a 20-minute race plus the regulation lap at the end. On the outside of that notional row, Dave Marshall then in 66. The second row, Jack Keithley. And then alongside him, Callum Newsham, who has certainly proved in mini racing that he is a pretty feisty competitor. So I think Callum could well be one to watch. Battles set to rage on all the way down through the field. And 20 laps, as Mike Epps has reinforced our point, ballast free for both races around here means that this is when the cars will be at perhaps their not only fastest but most evenly matched all year, without drivers having to worry about the success ballast. Right, we've probably just about got time to do this. Andy, pick a winner. Who's going to come out on top?
I knew you were going to throw that at me. Mike Epps is far too easy a choice, so I'm going to throw my money down on Callum Newsham, I reckon, 4th place.
All right, Mike Epps is the obvious target, I think, but let's go Jack Keithley and see how he fares, because as I say, I think that Jack could be a man to watch. But you've got the likes of Max Bird, who has starred in Ginetta as well as in mini racing. You've got Max Goff, who's done great things in historic touring cars. You've got Will Powell, Brabham factory driver, the redoubtable Stuart Lyons. He's been described as worse than that. He's another driver to look for. Former F3 Cup racer Cat Impey. There's Senna Proctor from the British Touring Car Championship as well. There's Dave Newsham, formerly of the British Touring Car Championship. So there is an awful lot to look forward to as we get set to go racing then. Everybody is in the server then. The grid is formed. And we await the start of round 1. This new for 2021 Championship then, the MSL FastR Touring Car eSeries with Power Match Racing, powered by VRRC. Red lights are on and the lights go out in a second. It will be passed off. Good getaway made by Mike Epps. Dave Marshall is on his toes though from the outside of the front row and tries to get his nose in front as they drop down towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. But it's Mike Epps that does have the advantage, then claims the inside line. Jack Keithley gets his nose up the inside to try to go third on the run up towards Druids though, but Mike Epps with pretty pointy elbows, Andy, fends them all off, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, true to real life there. Pole position wasn't really the place to be. Definitely Dave Marshall was quicker off the line, but of course he was stuck on the outside for Paddock Hill Bend, so wasn't able to move forward. That didn't stop Callum Newsham from trying to go around the outside of Jack Keithley for third. Didn't work, but he certainly ran wheel to wheel with the Audi through the first sequence of corners. And as we can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there is all sorts going on in the midfield as people who feel they're out of position on the grid try to move to the front.
Absolutely right. So up towards the end of lap 1, Mike Epps has the advantage, but he's not exactly clearing off into the distance. It's pretty much 5 for the lead as they break the beam then. So Epps, Marshall, Keithley, Newsham, and then Jordan Brennan staying on the back of that little gaggle of cars. Now behind, that's where the gap is. Senna Proctor is, if you like, best of the rest, or he was, but I think he's been forced out wide. Is he not going through Paddock? Yes, he has. There's drama though there. One of them cannons off the barrier, and that means that out of the race goes Max Edmondson. Very nearly took 2 or 3 with him, but he's ended up in the gravel. He will rejoin, but that puts Max Edmondson right down to the back of the pack, and it means, Andy, that leading quintet has got even further breathing space over the opposition.
Oh, that's a real shame there, because that was shaping up to be a nice battle, wasn't it? But someone got into the back of him. I think he was trying to make a move, and then someone tried to make a move on him, and there just isn't the room for 3 wide up the hill. And lucky actually not to collect more. There's more drama at Clearways, and that sets off a bit of a chain reaction there as others try to avoid. I think they all actually came out of that more or less okay. But look at this, 3 wide across the start-finish line. There isn't a hope of war getting through Paddock Hill Bend like this, but they're still committing to it. There's the contact around into the barriers. Heavily goes the number 13 car, and that is Colin Martin, I'm afraid. And I think he collected his teammate there as he ricocheted back across the track. You could see that one coming.
Colin Martin in the real world is a fabricator for Power Max Racing. He is the man you go to if your car is damaged. Well, in a virtual world, he's got a rather damaged car and he's in the gravel. We also had Rob Butler come down the pit lane, which might have been a drive-through penalty because he has rejoined. So I think the game may well have given him a penalty, possibly for track limit abuse. Now, up front, Mike Epps leads the way. Clock ticks on down. And is he getting away from Dave Marshall now? Jack Keithley is still there in 3rd place. Battle on for 4th. There they are. Callum Newsham just ahead of Jordan Brennan as the cars round Paddock once again. But Mike Epps controlling things up front. But as I said a lap ago, he's not gone storming off into the distance. He still has to keep an eye on what's going on behind him. Dave Marshall is staying pretty much with him. He's keeping Mike Epps honest. Battle takes up attention for 4th place though now. Callum Newsham coming under attack from Jordan Brennan. And further back, 61 there, Martin Richards, the Drift King. He has got a lot of work to do to get himself up through the pack. First target, Stuart Lyons.
Yes, he won't be an easy man to pass, although he's just gained 2 positions quite easily there as he goes out of Graham Hill Bend. There was an incident off to his left. You can see there that he is one of the drivers using a virtual reality system as if the game wasn't immersive enough. That is something I've never tried, but I have to say I'm itching to give it a go. I'm sure it really does enhance the experience of racing on the sim rig. And he just saw through that virtual reality a mistake from Stuart Lyons, which allowed him up the inside, and he has been able to go through. So plenty of excitement further down the order. But I think some about to develop here for 4th place. Callum Newsham does seem to be struggling not only to keep up with the leaders, but also to keep the very rapid Jordan Brennan behind him.
Indeed, yes, and I think that's partly why he is dropping away from the leaders, isn't it? Because he's having to think about going defensive. Bear in mind, Mike Epps' race leader has a point in the championship already for that pole position. So he's in the box seat, as it were. He comes over the line as the championship leader already. 44 through there is Max Bird, the man from Chichester, so he too is one to watch to see what progress can be made, because we know that he's a quick driver. Comes up now to have a go at Ryan Elliott, who is on the inside line there. Ryan Elliott in the Golf, Max Bird with the Honda, can't find a way past him, rides the curb at Paddock, now tries to get the run on the inside line heading up towards Druids. He will brake late, he will go through into the top 10. Max Bird with a good move goes by. Does he go a little bit wide on exit? He does, but he should be good to hang on to the pace there.
Yeah, Ryan Elliott just congratulating Max Bird on an overtake well made by giving a bit of a love tap through Druids. He was hoping to sneak back up the inside, but it didn't work. Brilliant stuff that from Max Bird. Forced Elliott to defend into Paddock. That always means that the defensive driver will be slow on the exit, and that's what allowed Max Bird through. So he's back into the top 10. As we look back out of the rear window of a Hyundai i30N, it's that of Callum Newsham in 4th position. Still right on his rear bumper is Jordan Brennan, but this is the problem, isn't it, David? Jordan, I think, is a little bit quicker, but where does he make the move? He could maybe try and launch an attack at Paddock, maybe into clearways, but that's fraught with danger. The slightest bit of contact could ruin your race, and this is, after all, only the first race of the season, so we might just be seeing a little more caution out of people like Jordan right now than we would do deeper into the season. Definitely looks quicker than Callum, though.
He does indeed, but he's, as you say, hasn't yet worked out how to get by. In the meantime, Robbie Stapleford is on his toes, and he goes through there, does he? Yes, gets at the inside of Newsham Senior, so Dave Newsham with a bit of hit and shoulder is off the road and into the tyres. Oh dear, oh dear. So Callum Newsham hangs on to his 4th place, but Dan got roughed up a little bit there. Upper place goes Robbie Stapleford to 8th, and Dave Newsham is tumbling down and down and down the order. The 3 leaders, Epps, Marshall, Keithley, then go round Druids. Callum Newsham is still 4th, so resolutely hanging on to that place. Jordan Brennan crawling all over the back of him. And as Andy was suggesting, and I agree, he does look as though he's got the pace. Jordan, a very experienced sim racer, were he to get past Callum Newsham, he could make some headway further up the order, but he just can't do it as yet. Great battle here at the bottom of midfield.
Yeah, Craig Keeble here, who qualified either 20th or just outside the top 20, is really making good progress. He's into 14th place there, just got himself ahead of Kenny Press, who's also gained some ground since the start. But Keeble's the one who, I mentioned in qualifying, won his spot on the grid. He was a competition winner, and he's certainly not disgracing himself now. He's 14th, he's closing already onto the tail of Max Edmondson, and could yet make further progress before the race is over. Kenny Press, meanwhile, under pressure from the recovering Dave Newsham, who's got the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend, but then up the inside of him, attempts to go Will Powell. They're 3 wide, there's going to be more contact. Powell sideways, Newsham somehow skates through, but they all end up in the gravel, and that didn't really work out for any of them.
It did not. You're absolutely right. Isaac Smith, in the meantime, in 123 Peugeot, the Peugeot 308, he is now looking for a way past Senna Proctor. They're absolutely nose to tail up through Surtees into McLaren. This is the onboard view from Smith then, as he turns right, hustles the car out of clearways up towards Clark Curve. But Senna Proctor, who has lost touch with that leading quintet, and in fairness, lost quite a bit of that touch on the opening lap, because that's when the gap really widened. He spent the rest of the race having to be defensive, a bit like Callum Newsham actually, but he is hanging on to that place. Out of Paddock then, nose to tail pretty much, up towards Druids once more. The fight's on for 6th, the fight is still on also for 4th place. Callum Newsham, in the world's widest Hyundai, is hanging on to the position, and still Jordan Brennan has not yet found a way of unseating it.
No, absolutely, and it's almost turning into a bit of a stalemate situation, isn't it now? Newsham knows now where Jordan Brennan is quicker than him, and knows therefore where he needs to start defending, and that's sometimes where it might benefit the car behind just to drop back by a few lengths and try to reel the car ahead in once more. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, the gap is just starting to creep down, is it not, between Mike Epps and Dave Marshall? There they are, the pair of Peugeots. The gap it went up to 8 tenths at first, didn't it? Then it started creeping down, as falling down the order, I'm afraid, is Oliver, isn't he? Yeah, off at Clearways, I'm afraid, for Oliver. Yeah, this lead gap, David, definitely starting now to shrink rather than grow. So maybe a sign that Dave Marshall is really starting to come on strong now into the middle part of the race.
It was only by hundredths last time rather than great significant gains, but you're right, it is coming down. There is 66, which is Dave Marshall. He's in second place, giving the brakes a real workover, and you can see Mike Epps just up the road ahead of him. So 4 tenths of a second it was at the last timing point. It's hovering around the half a second mark as they come up towards the beam. And again, on that lap look, slightly quicker is Dave Marshall. So almost at halfway in terms of the time before the regulation lap at the end. The gap is down a little. Mike Epps, who was saying pre-race he's a bit nervous, is being caught by Marshall. A quick look further down the order for 12th place, incidentally. That's Miles Lacey, the man from Hertford in Cheshire. And that could, if he stays there, of course, flip over into pole for race 2. And if Mike Epps has to start 12th, he's going to be a very busy boy indeed in the second race of the day. There is Miles Lacey in that 12th place, going out of Druids. He might not necessarily stay 12th, but even if he gains 1 place, he should be good for the front row for race 2, shouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and that will be in the back of their minds, because even though you're not scoring as many points back there, if you want to play the long game, you can try and make race 2 your race, and they'll be thinking about this as soon as qualifying's done. If their qualifying session was a little bit disappointing and they've ended up out of position, then automatically I think their brain just sort of switches over to race 2, doesn't it? At least we've got the reverse grid to try and gain something out of it. But here is that battle then. Ryan Elliott and Miles Lacey, Golf ahead of Civic. Nothing to choose between them performance-wise, but Lacey, not for the first time there I noticed, runs a bit wide, just misses the apex at Paddock Hill Bend, and that means he's not really close enough to have a go into Druids.
Ryan Elliott is on the inset, hard at work, so he's hanging on to his 11th place. But remember that Ryan has dropped a few spots during the course of this race as he comes now down through Graham Hill Bend. He's still under huge attack, so the experienced e-sporter, but he is a karter from years past. Ryan Elliott under attack then. Miles Lacey right there behind him. Meantime, last time around, Mike Epps lapped slightly quicker, so again it's a little bit elasticated, the lead gap. However, for 11th and 12th they're almost overlapping then as they come out of Clark Curve onto the pit straight to the outside line goes Miles Lacey. Is he going to get himself in a challenging position as they head towards Paddock? No, not quite there, but can he get the undercut as they drop through the corner? Again, looks as though Elliott has got the answer, doesn't he, to all of this being thrown at him from the Miles Lacey 12th placed car. There it is, number 93. The Honda has to stay behind, at least for the moment.
Ooh, Miles Lacey, though, getting very close and personal with the Golf in front, and they're both in danger, aren't they, of losing their front row slot, because they've got Max Edmondson now closing back in again. Edmondson's been in the wars earlier on. He's right with them, so this battle that they're having is almost a little bit irrelevant, really. They're going to share the front row of the grid anyway if they just stay where they are, but not if they do that. There's contact going into Clearways. Lacey, who was the aggressor, actually ends up coming out worse, runs out wide, and it looks like Edmondson might not just get one, he could get past both of them.
Although that was a very brutal way of getting past, and the bite a bit as they come past the pits there, because Max Edmondson ends up being turned across the road and into the barrier. He'll bounce off that and rejoin, but he was being pretty aggressive, and you got the feeling that people weren't very happy about being roughed up, so kind of got his comeuppance. Sadly, the clerk of the course, Andy Ringland, may well have a look at that. There is a clerk of the course with real world race experience, Andy Ringland, so he can look at things like that and say, you know, it might be virtual racing, but even so, that ain't on. The lead gap, however, down a fraction again. Marshall is staying close to Epps, but 8 minutes to go plus a lap. Is he going to get close enough to have a go, or is he just going to be a constant shadow?
This is the thing, he's not taking chunks out of Mike, is he? It's hundredths of a second at a time, and that isn't usually indicative of a significant pace advantage, significant enough at least for him to make an easy pass. So if he is going to get through, might have to get the elbows out. This dynamic has changed, hasn't it? Callum Newsham getting his head down now, getting away from Jordan Brennan. Now, is that because Newsham's getting quicker or Brennan's getting slower? I think it is possibly the former, actually, because on the previous lap, Brennan set a reasonably competitive time, but Newsham definitely getting away, and Senna Proctor, who is still 4 seconds behind them, of course, that's a back marker, isn't it, the next car in line. So yeah, it is looks good now for Newsham in fourth, just needs to try and keep this pace up till the end. Max Bird we're on board with, though, cannot relax at all. Robbie Stapleford, the man that he's trying to find a way past the orange Cupra, heads into Paddock Hill Bend, flames spits from the exhausts, and as they plunge down through the dip, Max Bird has caught the Cupra, but now again is faced with this ever-present difficulty of finding a way through without roughing him up too much.
Absolutely right. And is he going to be able so to do then as they come down the hill? Together they run 8th and 9th. Max Bird, we know he's quick, and he's right there on the tail of the Cupra that runs a little bit wide. He thinks about the inside heading down towards Surtees, but to no avail. Further back, Will Powell has gained a place. That puts him up into 16th spot. 12th at the moment remains Rob Butler now for pole position for race 2. Up towards the line now. Dave Marshall on the inset will come through, as there you've got the fight lower down. Still, Stapleford ahead of Bird. 8th and 9th they are, and slightly quicker was Stapleford by a couple of tenths of a second, but the lead gap less than ever now. 0.273 Epps to Marshall. 6 more minutes plus a lap to go. It is game on, isn't it, for the race lead now?
Yeah, I've been watching the onboard here from Dave Marshall. He's really good on the brakes. Look at the way that he just sort of cruises up to the back of Mike Epps into clearways and then doesn't really lose the ground on the exit. So he's carrying good corner speed without it hindering his exit speed. He's in the toe now, going across the line. Is he close enough to have a go into Paddock? Not really, but again, closes under braking. Nice wide line in, carries the speed through the dip. He can do this, I think, Dave Marshall, but he might just have to bite the bullet and really go for it. And now Epps is making some slight mistakes. Look, he was just half a car's width away from the apex at Druids. Dave Marshall will see that. That will give him a bit of extra incentive maybe to keep him applying the pressure. Of course, if you can't get through yourself, the next best thing is just to stay attached to the rear bumper of the car ahead and try to force a mistake out of them. Mike Epps doesn't make many mistakes, but he is just starting now, I think, to watch his mirrors a little bit more than he'd like to, and that will give Dave Marshall a little bit of hope, especially since there are still 5 minutes plus 1 lap to go.
20 points for a win, 17 for second place. Remember, you get a point for the fastest lap in qualifying and also a point for the fastest lap of each race. So Mike Epps is in the box seat, even now thinking points. There's one slow car that they dodge past through the traffic, indeed another one, Cat Impey, the XF3 racer. The Cheshire driver gets out of the way. And Epps to Marshall, then it's gone up a little to 3 tenths, but certainly now Mike Epps is going to have to drive in a different way, isn't he? No longer is it his race, because he's got to defend. He's got to be so careful about what's going on behind him. And of course, Dave Marshall has caught him at, you could argue, exactly the wrong time for Epps, because while he's got to concentrate on his mirrors, so he's also got to pick his way through the traffic. So Marshall now is there, ready to pounce, ready to seize on any drama. Dave Newsham in the meantime is coming under attack from Ryan Elliott, but he stays ahead of him there, look, diving into Druids.
Yeah, Newsham just got past Elliott actually into Paddock with a really bold move. Elliott's slipping back here, isn't he, towards the end of the race for whatever reason. Doesn't seem as happy at this point of the race, so he's down to 15th when, remember, a lap or so ago he was maybe looking for a front row place in race 2. It would now be Miles Lacey that has the provisional race 2 pole in 12th position, with Rob Butler 11th, who would line up alongside him. But Dave Newsham could still get there, couldn't he? Because now Absolutely. He goes up the inside of Craig Keeble into 13th. Has he got time to catch the top dozen?
Yes, he has, but has he got the pace? He's 2 seconds back, give or take. I would say yes, Dave Newsham for pole is a real possibility here. He's also got the racecraft to be able to do it. So as he heads up the hill, Dave Newsham recovering after his trip into the tyres earlier. Jordan Brennan is up into 4th at the expense of Callum Newsham, so that change has happened. It was always on the cards, but Jordan has finally done it. The leaders go by with Epps quicker by a tenth, but they are so evenly matched, these two. Now, there is the little fight going on for 4th place, and Callum Newsham wants that spot back, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brennan's got through, but Newsham, as you say, wants it back. Looked up the inside into Paddock Hill Bend, and again, we'll start seeing maybe here where the different cars have slightly different strengths and weaknesses. That Hyundai is known for being good on the straights, but Brands Hatch isn't really much of a power circuit. So although Callum is able to just inch back towards the Golf across the start-finish line, wasn't really close enough to have a go into Paddock Hill Bend. Charlie Oliver is, though. He has also had a few excursions in this race, and he gains another place there ahead, 17th place now, ahead of Richards. And in fact, Richards now back on the inside again, going through Druids. It's all getting a little bit physical between these two. There won't be a straight panel left on that Audi by the end of the race, will there?
Martin Richards in the PowerMax liveried car, there you see, is not only at the inside going back for his 17th place, which he has got, but bear in mind that he comes from real-world drifting. So rear-wheel drive cars drifting now to front-wheel drive sim racing. It could not be a bigger culture shock, could it? So he's adapting pretty well to all of this. He is Britain's star drifter and getting better and better and better all the time in sim racing. Lacey to Newsham, gap coming down for 12th place. We have got 2 more minutes plus the regulation lap. Can Mike Epps hang on in there? Also, for all of this, can Callum Newsham get back ahead of Jordan Brennan? So there are lots of potentials, and if you think this is good, and it is good, it's lively all the way up and down the order. Reverse the top 12 for race 2. It's going to be very spectacular indeed. There goes 4th, so Brennan versus Newsham. Can Senna Proctor close up behind? No, he can't. He's still dropping a little bit of time, isn't he, relative to those ahead?
Yeah, Senna, I think, ruining, as you said, those early laps. If he'd got away with the top 5, he might have had the pace to stay with them, but it's sometimes better when you're 3.5 seconds back to just preserve what you've got, and I think 6th place point's probably better than an all-out attack to try and catch them. Robbie Stapleford is now behind Max Bird. This is the scrap we were following a few laps ago, so Bird has moved into 8th position now, which... Yes, it's more points, but of course it's now an extra place further back on the grid for race 2. So again, sometimes we see drivers maybe not wanting to make too much more progress when they're on for a good grid position in the second race. Bird, though, clearly after the points, and he's only 9/10 of a second now behind Isaac Smith. And on the previous lap, he was 3/10 quicker, so that is another position that Max could potentially gain.
Yeah, Max, another driver that we've seen do so well in Ginetta GT5s as well as in the Mini Challenge. Now, what about Dave Marshall? Because as he comes out of Graham Hill Bend, he runs wide all over the curb. This is the fight that's going on now for pole for race 2. For 12th place, Dave Newsham has caught Miles Lacey. He's gone alongside Miles Lacey. He's about to get past. Is he diving into paddock? Dave will brake as Lacey dares. There's a rub. Lacey is sideways. They rub again. But Dave Newsham does go through. That gives him the place. And if he can hang on to it for another 20 seconds plus a lap, he will at least recover for pole position for race 2.
Yeah, given the rate at which he caught Lacey, he should be able to get through. But I'll tell you what, Miles did not make that easy, did he? He really tried to squeeze Dave to the inside into paddock. Newsham, though, perhaps not surprisingly, was not having any of it and muscled his way through. But that was, I would say, firm but fair is the way I'd describe that. Nothing wrong with a little bit of paint being traded. Will we see any paint traded between the Peugeots, though? They're both on the absolute limit here, aren't they? But Mike Epps, so far, hanging on and withstanding the pressure.
Now, is this Dave Marshall biding his time, or is he genuinely not quite able to mount that bid? As in, is he thinking, right, I'm going to time this to have one go, and it could be my only chance, on the last lap. If it comes off, great. If it doesn't, okay. But is he trying to lull Mike Epps into a false sense of security? Let's see. Epps takes a lot more curve at paddock and therefore steals an advantage of another length or so up towards the right-hander. Brew Druids, nose to tail. Epps definitely under pressure, but possibly Graham Hill Bend is Dave Marshall's last real opportunity if he can dive up the inside, and he can't do it there, Andy, can he?
No, good exit though from the corner, and he might have an overlap going into Surtees. He has. Look at this. Dave Marshall's got the inside line. You can't really overtake through here, but it's the first and only chance he's had. Mike Epps hangs on the outside, gets the inside for clearways, and now it will be a drag race to the line. Marshall with the wide line into the corner, tries to carry the speed off. He gives Mike Epps a tap, but he's not going to get there.
Up towards the line then, Mike Epps is just going to hang on by a very narrow margin of 1/10 of a second. More drama in the background as off the road goes Charlie Oliver, but it is a win for Mike Epps. Second is Dave Marshall. Jack Keithley third. In the end, a little bit in no man's land ahead of Jordan Brennan. And Newsham takes fifth, Senna Proctor 6th. Now, the rest come pouring through with Isaac Smith 7th ahead of Max Bird, Robbie Stapleford 9th. Max Goff should be in 10th place, let us check, ahead of Rob Butler, and then Dave Newsham there heading up for 12th position as he now makes the run towards the line. If he does secure 12th, which he should, there it is, pole position for race 2. So a very lively first race within the MSL FastR Touring Car eSeries with PowerMax Racing, powered by VRRC, and there the provisional result of race 1. Mike Epps the winner, Dave Marshall 2nd and Jack Keithley 3rd. Jordan Brennan 4th, Callum Newsham 5th ahead of Senna Proctor, Isaac Smith, Max Bird, Robbie Stapleford and Max Goff to round out the top 10. You get points in the top 15, so include Rob Butler, Dave Newsham, Ryan Elliott, Martin Richards and Stuart Lines as well for the scorers. Quite a few drivers in all sorts of strife in that opening race. But the good news is that I think pretty much everybody did get to the finish. Cars might be in a state of disrepair, but at least they've all gained the experience, and Mike Epps came out on top. A very impressive drive indeed. Right, let us have a chance to hear from them. I think Andy is on his way down to the interview area. Jack Keithley for third, Dave Marshall second, and race winner Mike Epps.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. Well, we'll start then, shall we, with our third place finisher, Jack Keithley. And as David was just saying, Jack, the second half of the race was a little bit lonely for you, but I guess first race of the season, a fairly uneventful run to third place. You'll take that, won't you?
Absolutely, but you're correct. I mean, I was nearly falling asleep. I was praying that the top two would get into a bigger squabble than they did, and I could get a bit more than what I was getting. But you know what? Third on my very first race here in such an amazing field with real British touring car drivers. It's amazing to be here. So I'm really happy to get third place in my very first event here. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting to be a bit slower, but I'm really happy for third.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty intense first few laps, wasn't it? Is it difficult to get those tyres up to temperature? It's something we've been pondering all afternoon. It's obviously very cold track temperature. Were you struggling with that at all at the start of the race?
A touch, but I feel like my inexperience with front wheel drive on is so cool. This is my very first race with front wheel drive on here, so to me it's like a bit of the unknown, but I'm more than happy with how it went. A little bit of a door banging with a Callum Newsham, but it's touring car racing, what do you expect?
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and best of luck now for the reverse grid second race coming up momentarily, Jack.
And also, I was going to say thank you to Williams eSport for letting me do this, and to my agent for notifying me of this championship. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. Glad to have you here, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again in the near future. Now, second place in that race was Dave Marshall, but Dave, it could so easily have been first. You sat there patiently waiting, and finally your chance came on the last lap.
Yeah, cheers, Andy. Yeah, to be fair, I was more than happy with second. I was sat behind Mike, and his car was definitely stronger initially. I maybe had a tenth, if that, towards the end of the race. Just my tyres seemed to last a little bit better, but could have been all down to slipstream and all stuff like that. So, to be fair, he gave us a look on the very last lap. He ran a little bit wide and lost the back end. But to be fair, I was quite happy to sit in second. I wasn't going to risk throwing it up the inside, and Jack wasn't too far behind. I think he was only 2.5 seconds. So, yeah, do nothing stupid, and yeah, it's a good point for the team.
The second race, though, you might have no choice but to get your elbows out a little bit. Reverse grid, you'll be starting 11th. What are your thoughts?
Probably just damage limitation, really. I like to think we're still relatively far up the grid, even though it's reverse grid. There's some very, very good drivers in front of us. So it's probably just, biding our time, watching from behind to make sure we're not going to get caught up in anything, and then just go for it when the opportunity presents itself, really. So just keep our nose clean.
Good stuff. Well, congratulations on second place, Dave Marshall. The man who just pipped you to the post, though, was Mike Epps. Now, Mike, you were so relaxed during qualifying that you stepped away from the rig and you took an Amazon delivery in. I reckon the heart rate went up a little bit on that last lap, though, didn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have been answering any deliveries. That was a little bit more tricky. Like Dave said, I think we are teammates, but we do our own thing with our car setup and stuff. And I think I've gone a bit more aggressive, a bit more real lifestyle, and just fallen off the edge a bit at the end. It's possible as well that if you're sat in a draft the whole race, you don't quite have to push as hard to do the same pace. So it could be a mixture of things. It's just a learning process. So we'll see how this one goes. Like Dave said, damage limitation now, and just try and stay out of the potential carnage that could ensue.
Well, I guess that aggressive setup might benefit you now in the second race, because you need to get on with it, and you need to get on with it quickly, don't you? You want to get yourself out of that midfield as quickly as you can.
Yeah, that's a good point, to be fair, but we'll see. I mean, you need to be strong at the end as well, because you tend to come through the field in a gradual sort of fashion with these races. So we'll see how it plays out.
Excellent stuff. Well, congratulations on the win. Maximum points so far for Mike Epps. Can he keep it up in race 2, David? Well, we're about to find out.
Yes, thanks very much, Andy. So we will have the cars back on track. The drivers will be back in the server in a moment, and Dave Newsham is the man that's going to start on pole position for this second race, with Rob Butler lining up with him at the front of the grid in the tricolour Irish colours. very successful karter in his time, but these days more of a driver coach, Rob Butler. But one to watch, Max Goff and Robbie Stapleford are on the second row of the grid. And if you go right to the very back, you've got the likes of James Merrills with work to do, Craig Keeble also alongside on the penultimate row of the grid, ahead of Kenny Press, and then those that were in strife in the first race, Colin Martin. As we get underway, lights out, great start by Dave Newsham. Rob Butler slots in behind him as they make the run towards paddock. Max Bird is on his toes on the inside line, but Dave Newsham it is then who hits the front and instantly tries to get on with the job here and break away from the opposition. Great battles going on for third. There's mayhem in the background as well. Max Goff making progress up on the inside line there. Is he going to be able to go through and take more ground? Let's see as they come down towards Graham Hill Bend for the first time. Dave Newsham it is, though, who has hit the front.
Well, David, while you've been following the leaders, I've been watching the leaders from the previous race, if that makes sense. And Dave Marshall had got himself ahead of Jack Keithley, got a car between himself and Mike Epps. But Keithley, I think, is fighting back now as they go towards Surtees for the first time, as they tentatively turn their way now into the right-hander at clearways. Those rear tyres still not really up to temperature. They're slowing the pace, though, because the safety car has been deployed. I thought that was more tentative than even on cold tyres they should be going. Safety car out then, perhaps not a surprise, I think, on the first lap of a reverse grid race that we've had a couple of cars that haven't made it round.
Okay, so the safety car deployed, which is another feature of this series, the MSL FastR Touring Car eSeries with PowerMax Racing, powered by VRRC. You have safety cars in the real world, you get them in the virtual world as well, so everybody has to slow right down. Safety car is on track, and that's because of the incidents on the opening lap of the race. There is the safety car going through, and Dave Newsham, having tried to build a gap, now finds himself coming under attack on that restart with Rob Butler up behind him. Max Goff, who is shown on that graphic as having the same number as Rob Butler, but he's actually running as 63, Max Goff. Then you've got Robbie Stapleford fourth ahead of Max Bird, and then Isaac Smith next up. So through they will turn, and of course all these laps counting within the 20 minutes then. So safety car through, you can see the drivers trying to maintain tyre warmth and tyre pressures as they come across the line. Dave Newsham, no stranger to this sort of restart from his days in Legends, from being a Clio Cup champion and of course in the BTCC. I think he's still going to be able to make a good restart and try and build that gap once more when we go racing, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a real pro, is Dave Newsham, isn't he? As you say, years and years of experience, and he, I think, will be feeling quite confident from here. His problem in the first race, really, was that he couldn't keep himself out of trouble, but now that he's escaped the midfield melee, he's got some clean air, he'll want to build that gap as quickly as he can before some of the really quick drivers come through, and I think if you give Dave Newsham clear track and no pressure from behind, he is going to be difficult to catch.
Popular driver, I think. That's why he attracted all the attention in the first race. But we're about to go green once more, are we? Because the safety car should peel in this time. Everybody is bunched up, ready for the restart. So can Newsham then get the jump once more over Rob Butler as they come across the timing line? We go racing once more, then up towards paddock. Those two getting away a little bit from Max Goff third. Stapleford is fourth. Bird and Smith fifth and sixth. What about Newsham Jr.? He has got work to do as well. In fact, he's fallen a long, long way back, has he not? But up the hill goes Dave Newsham, the race leader, and trying to build that gap as through goes Jordan Brennan in 8th spot ahead of Callum Newsham. Their race one battle is continuing here with Epps still stuck in 12th place. Yeah, Mike Epps 12th, and Dave Marshall did get the best of Jack Keithley, so Marshall's gained a position from his starting place, whereas Epps didn't. If that is the kind of early championship battle, that could prove to be significant. Up to the end of the lap they go. Max Bird hops over the curb, loses the rear of the car, and Isaac Smith sees a chance to get the Peugeot up the inside. This is for 5th position, and Bird could end up losing more than one place here because it's a real freight train of cars behind him, and he is on the wrong side of the road. He's on the outside into Paddock Hill Bend. On the inside is Isaac Smith. Smith goes through, Senna Proctor tries to follow him. The Hondas lean on each other, so close to making contact. They do on the exit make a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and it looks as though, how did that one settle out? Yeah, Proctor went through, Jack Brennan goes up the inside and runs wide. It is not going well for Max Bird. You reckon that's settled, do you? Okay, right, so Jordan Brennan up, Callum Newsham up as well. You're right, Bird down to 9th, but it's all going to kick off again, I fear, before the end of the lap, because Newsham is once again looking for a way past Jordan Brennan, just as he was at the end of the opening race. On the tail of Max Bird, though, now is the hard-charging Dave Marshall. Works all sideways there with a little bit of an assist, goes Newsham. Marshall to the outside line here, tries to make his move against Max Bird. He's up alongside him. Mike Epps might be able to take full advantage of this. Yes, look, he gets a mega toe. He's gone up alongside one. He might get past 2, maybe even 3 in one go here. It might all come to naught. Never mind that, because they go through paddock. Some go wide. Epps does gain ground, and out of all of that, poor old Max Bird, even wider, drops even further down the pecking order.
Well, poor old Max Bird, but poor old Dave Marshall as well. He'll be spitting feathers after that. He was the one trying to make a move, and he's ended up dropping behind Mike Epps, behind Jack Keithley, who he'd worked so hard to better in the earlier laps, and he's back down to 11th place now. But yeah, you're right, Max Bird lost more places, but I think Dave Marshall might be the most frustrated out of that little group for whatever reason. Just wasn't quite able to come out of that as strongly as he'd have hoped. Senna Proctor we're following now in 6th position, comes out of the final corner, only half a second behind Isaac Smith, whilst at the head of the field, Dave Newsham. Did I confidently predict that Dave Newsham would be able to get away here from Rob Butler? I take that back now. Rob is absolutely staying with him, just 0.4 of a second, the lead margin.
Yeah, Rob Butler reminding people, in a sense, what a wasted talent he was, because it was an accident that rather stopped his career as a real-world driver. He does a lot of driver coaching these days. Isaac Smith, who's on this grid, is one of the drivers he coaches, but Rob is no mean peddler. So he's there, chasing after Dave Newsham, one of the star names within the championship, admittedly, but Rob going after him and proving he's just as good. The gap between them is 1/5 of a second as number 2, Ryan Elliott, goes through shot down in 13th place. Remember, points for the top 15. The cut-off there at the moment being Charlie Oliver. Isaac Smith up into 4th place last time around at the expense of Stapleford. Newsham leading, but being caught again by Butler. He's quicker that lap through. So just as we had Epps and Marshall running nose to tail for race 1, we've got the top 2 in race 2. Absolutely tied together.
Yeah, Rob Butler, one of the other drivers that he's coached is Reece Barr. He coached him through Mini Challenge and through TCR Europe, so he knows this TCR machinery pretty well, does Rob. Knows how to get the best out of it, and he's definitely sticking with Dave Newsham. The pair of them, though, getting away from everybody else who are trying to be 3rd place, aren't they? Max Goff, Isaac Smith, Robbie Stapleford, Senna Proctor, they're all nose to tail. We're right on board now with Smith. I think it was getting a bit touchy-feely there, wasn't it, through clearways, as he almost got into the back of Max Goff, and the orange Cupra of Stapleford starts to fill his mirrors as well. Good run through Clark Curve, though, and Isaac Smith pulls to the outside, tries to sell the dummy, goes back to the inside, the Peugeot is there, there's going to be contact, and Isaac Smith head first into the barriers. That was one move too many, I think, in what is already a bumpy braking zone, and sadly, Isaac ends up coming off the worst from that, drops outside of the top 10.
He does indeed, way down the order, and still falling as he tries to rejoin. Now, in the meantime, there, look, Senna Proctor all over the back of Robbie Stapleford now for the last place on the notional podium. So it is just the Cupra Leon hanging onto position. That's Senna Proctor, winner here in Real World Touring Cars for Power Max Racing. Then the Astra right there behind it. 5th is Jordan Brennan. Callum Newsham is 6th. Mike Epps is up to 7th. Jack Keithley is up to 9th, Dave Marshall 10th, so Epps bit by bit just getting on with the job, isn't he? Edging forward, letting other people, in a sense, do the hard work for him by having their own problems.
And that's the art of it, isn't it? Here he is, though, actually proving you wrong and making something happen himself, or trying to. Has a big nibble at the right rear corner of Callum Newsham's Hyundai, but Callum fends him off for now, and then behind him, Max Goff and Jack Keithley getting up close and personal into the braking zone as well. But there is a real art, I think, to not only surviving these reverse grid races, but thriving in them as well. If you are the aggressor, you're the one that's really trying to force the issue, you can very often come off with damage or off the road altogether, whereas Mike seems to, as you said, be letting other people open the door, and he just follows them through. That's exactly what happened with that moment with Dave Marshall earlier on, wasn't it? Dave was the one trying to gain progress, and it was Epps that benefited. So savvy driving here from Epps, and 7th place already, and likely, I think, to move further forward.
We've talked about, have we not, of course, real world feeling, sim world feeling behind the wheel of one of these virtual cars, but there's also racecraft, whether it's real world or virtual, and that has to be factored in as well. And there are some drivers with clearly excellent racecraft. Now, Jack Keithley has gained a place as well, and so too has Dave Marshall now. So Max Goff from the second row of the grid falling back in the pack. Where's Epps up to? 7th. Next target Newsham, then Brennan. And Mike Epps still with half of the timed element of the race and a bit more to go. Could we get Mike Epps onto the podium before the end? The way he's going and his lap times suggest that might just be a possibility. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely, because of course the further up the order he gets, he's then battling with people that were further behind him in the race. So in other words, he should have a bigger pace advantage over maybe some of the drivers inside the top 3 or 4 than the people he's already overtaken. So he's kind of done the hard work now. Now he's got to try and pick off the rest. Dave Newsham just about got into Druid's corner ahead of Rob Butler, but Butler is asking all the right questions, isn't he, of Dave here? And with still over half the race to go, you do wonder whether Dave's going to be able to keep batting back suitable replies to those questions, because Butler is looking aggressive and increasingly so. Will he get frustrated and go for a rash move, though? That may be something that we watch out for in the second half of the race. He'll only be prepared to sit behind that Hyundai for so long.
Yeah, you're right. He's asking the right questions. Dave Newsham's got the right answers, though. For the moment, half the race still to go. 10 minutes on the clock then as the leaders go by. That time around, Dave Newsham slightly the quicker. Mike Epps up into 6th. Is he about to go 5th? Yes, on the inside line there. Through he goes then. He is attacking. Callum Newsham secures 6th place. Jordan Brennan the next target. But Mike Epps then into the top 6. He's done it. He's got himself that far. So looking oh so good this for Mike Epps. Newsham, Butler, Stapleford, Proctor, Brennan, Epps the order. Newsham is down to 7th. Keithley 8th. Marshall is 9th. Max Goff rounding out the top 10 as way out wide goes Callum Newsham. That's going to put him in further jeopardy with Jack Keithley out behind him. And Charlie Oliver is under attack as well. Isaac Smith way off the road there, right round the outside, rallycross style.
Oh, and that means that elbows are out again into Surtees. He loses that place. Isaac Smith's race, rather, falling apart, and that was, well, interesting. Isaac tried to retaliate, I think, and at the same time, another one of the Peugeots tried to go up the inside. Miles Lacey, that might have been. 3 into 1 didn't go, and Isaac Smith ends up losing even more positions. Back with Jack Keithley, and he's also got past Callum Newsham, hasn't he? So Callum Newsham slipping backwards here, and he brings through with him Dave Marshall, who is now starting to steadily pick them off himself as well. So Epps, Marshall and Keithley, who were the top 3 from the earlier race, are now together again on the timing screen at least, but Epps does have that handy 1.6 second cushion over Keithley and Marshall. Epps, though, now is catching Brennan, isn't he? So if he doesn't get past Brennan quickly, that might just stymie his pace a little bit and allow Keithley and Marshall to close in.
Jack Keithley adapting to front-wheel drive virtual touring cars very effectively. The Williams eSports driver, and as I said before, qualifying got underway. He's a big touring car fan, so loving being up against real-world touring car drivers. But right now he's under attack because Dave Marshall is right on his tail. Further back there, 11th now, Max Bird. He should be able to get himself into the top 10, I would have thought, before the end of the race. Meantime, lead gap hovers around the 0.3 of a second margin. It is still Dave Newsham ahead of Rob Butler. And Dave Newsham, for the moment, doing everything absolutely right, keeping Butler at bay as they now round Clark Curve up towards the timing line. Max Bird has just broken into the top 10, but again, it's so similar a situation, this, is it not, to what we had in race 1, because although they are close, Dave Newsham has just about got a small gap, enough to prevent Butler from having a real do-or-die move up the inside at the moment.
Yeah, the difference here, though, from the situation we had between Epps and Marshall in race 1 is that these are 2 different cars, the Hyundai against the Peugeot, rather than a pair of French cars going against each other, as we had in race 1. So it might be that Butler can use his car's advantage, which is probably through the slower corners, which is after all where all of the overtaking is done, to find a way through. Having said that, he's just dropped back on the first half of this lap, had a bit of a mistake at Graham Hill Bend, and that means that he's got a bit of work to do again to close back in. I did spot, though, in the background behind these two that it's starting to get very interesting for third place. Look at that, 4 cars together now. Robbie Stapleford still has Senna Proctor and Jordan Brennan on his tail, but they've now been joined by the rapid Mike Epps. So 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, I think, is about to become the battle to watch.
Yeah, Mike Epps is benefiting, or had been, from clear air. Now he's got himself in some traffic that's going to affect things a little bit, but Mike Epps is absolutely charging, and we know he's a class act in touring cars, real or virtual. He comes downhill. The musician, as well as very rapid racing driver, the British New Zealander, comes on to Cooper Straight, now looking for a way up past Jordan Brennan, and of course here he's got drivers who are all busy squabbling amongst themselves, so they only have to make a tiny error and the door is open. If Epps times this right, I still think the podium beckons for him, with 6 minutes and change plus a lap still to go. Look to the bottom right, you'll see the leaders come by. Dave Newsham ahead, although that time Rob Butler slightly the quicker in terms of the overall lap time. Epps, though, getting really busy now.
Yeah, he has a look there, forcing a mistake out of Jordan Brennan. Brennan is watching his mirrors now more than he's looking out of the windshield, and there is the result. The mistake at paddock means he's slow up the hill, and Epps makes it look remarkably easy, just launches up the inside. However, the gap between the 6th place car, which was Epps a second ago, it's now Brennan, and Jack Keithley in 7th, has come down by 0.4 of a second in the last lap. So this squabbling is holding these cars up. Keithley and Marshall are getting closer, but Epps is continuing to move forward. He's not staying behind other drivers for long enough for it to really affect him. So, yeah, this forward progress doesn't show any signs of stopping, and I think this Mike Epps podium that you suggested might be on the cards about 10 minutes ago is now looking more and more likely.
Indeed, because not only is he in 5th, but he's there almost within touching distance of Senna Proctor for 4th, who is right on the back of Robbie Stapleford for 3rd. So Epps then, who has done everything right thus far, pole, race win, and he's looking as though another podium might well be going his way. Now, that said, we've only got 5 minutes plus a lap to go. Dave Newsham has edged away slightly from Rob Butler. 4/10 it was, 3/10 it comes to at the next timing point. But Dave Newsham still just about in charge. Callum Newsham has dropped to 9th in the meantime. And there, Senna Proctor in 4th. He is now in this invidious position. He's got to attack, but he's also got to defend. And if he starts to defend, that's going to release Robbie Stapleford and might actually protect him in that 3rd position, of course.
Yes, for 12th place, by the way, it is Ryan Elliott who has it, but behind him, Craig Keeble wants it. He muscles his way up the inside of Martin Richards, and he's now on the tail of the 12th place car as we cut back to the 3rd place squabble. I don't know how the director is keeping up with all of this, because I can tell you, looking at the timing screen, there are these little pockets of activity up and down the order, groups of 3 or 4 drivers that just won't leave each other alone. There is so much racing going on, and it's what, of course, makes touring car racing such a popular discipline, because this is fairly normal, really. Close quarters racing, lots of overtaking. How much more overtaking can Mike Epps do, though? Well, the next overtake is possibly going to be one of the harder overtakes he's had to make all race, because Senna Proctor, like Mike Epps, has real-world touring car experience at the very highest level in the UK, and he's already, moving to defend. It might be that Epps' best bet here is to try and force a mistake out of Proctor, but Proctor, again, isn't likely to make that mistake too readily. Up to Druids they go, Epps to the outside, still can't find a way through.
But what about Graham Hill Ben? That's the next target, and of course, while Epps is busy attacking like this, he's got to be careful he doesn't allow Jordan Brennan a chance to challenge back at it. Through Graham Hill Ben they go, wide over the curb. Look, Stapleford in that 3rd place is benefiting now. Proctor holding up Epps, going defensive. Stapleford 3rd, escaping up the road. 3 minutes are on the clock still as Epps dives up the inside into clear ways. Job done. He came from a long way back. There was just about the width of the Peugeot, and he's done it. He's gone by. So Mike Epps goes through. Really impressive move, that. And now he should be able to charge clear and then get onto the back of Stapleford for that 3rd place. He's got the time left to do it.
Yeah, he's having to defend, though, because Proctor's trying to come back at him, as is his right, of course, and he's going to be eager to address the situation. He'll feel that Epps rather mugged him of that 4th position there. Proctor very much left the door wide open, and Epps was only too happy to step right through it. Now Mike's got into a bit of a rhythm, though. I think he should be able to get away. A timely move, that, for Epps, because look who has joined the party. Jack Keithley and Dave Marshall. They just about caught this group of cars, and then Mike Epps gets himself to the front of it and starts to pull away. That's going to be so frustrating for them, but there is still the potential here for Keithley and Marshall to gain more points as well.
And a change for the race lead. Looking at the timing totem pole, Rob Butler has somehow got himself up past Dave Newsham. So there they are. Butler has done it, coming through clearways. He's ahead when it matters, because with 2 minutes and a lap to go. Ooh. Butler leads. He gets a bootful of Newsham, which unsettles him. Robbie Stapleford is there in 3rd. Mike Epps could win this yet, you know. Up towards Druids they come, and Newsham tries to attack for the lead. Stapleford goes round the outside for 2nd. Butler is wide. Newsham is through. There's more contact. Rob Butler is back on the inside line. Is he going to retake the advantage? Yes, he is. Stapleford up the inside line for 2nd place. And look, Epps is with them. So Newsham down to 3rd, about to go down to 4th. And Epps is absolutely flying. He's got 3rd then, and Newsham has gone from 1st to 4th in just under a lap.
Look at this. Peugeot, Cupra, Peugeot, Hyundai, and Epps is sideways in the Peugeot. Newsham's back up the inside again. This is a battle I don't think that Mike Epps really wants to be involved with, and now he's the one getting hung out to dry. Look at that, side by side for 4th place. Senna Proctor's up the inside of Dave Newsham as well. As for the race lead, Stapleford has a big look at the inside for the 2nd lap in a row. The Peugeot of Rob Butler is sideways at Paddock Hill Bend, and Mike Epps is in the gravel, the race 1 winner. All of his hard work is undone. He falls right to the back of the top 10 behind all of those he was racing in the first race, but this is not over yet. A minute left on the clock, plus 1 lap, and 7 or 8 drivers all within touching distance of the top step of the podium, and it's getting more and more physical by the lap.
There is this, and possibly time for one more, and then, of course, the regulation lap. So Rob Butler is up front. Stapleford is now running second. Now, Dave Newsham is third, but all of this, I think, now has to be stamped provisional, doesn't it? Andrew England, the clerk of the cause, is going to want to look at some of it as Newsham gets a bit of help from Proctor and gets all crossed up coming out of Clark Curve. So with a pretty couple of Larry laps, I think the order may well have to be looked at post-race. But on track, no question. Butler leads. Right, we will have one more lap at the end of this. Butler versus Stapleford. They are trying to get away as now Jack Keithley goes third on the inside of centre Proctor, and Proctor gets a helping hand. There are more drivers being given a tap and getting sideways coming out of Druids, the net result of which is mayhem at Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, that's one of the Newshams, Dave, I think, isn't it? Newsham Senior was off the road, so too was Brennan, and that has rather split the pack, hasn't it? It's allowed these top three to get away. The man of the moment is Jack Keithley. He's on for another podium now, having had a really quiet race, sort of flying under the radar, wasn't he, along with Dave Marshall in the first two-thirds of the race. But when everything kicked off in front, it's Keithley who's come through into third. Now, he should be quicker than the two in front, but he's only got a lap left to try and do something about them. Rob Butler looking good to hang on to the victory. Behind him, though, it's anyone's guess. The Peugeots are back together here. Marshall ahead of Epps significantly. Mike Epps wants that place back. He will be gutted that he's not scoring as many points out of this as it looked like he would do.
I hope the clerk of the course isn't planning on mowing his lawn at the end of this race. I think he might be a bit busy. There'll be a lot to look at, but it is Rob Butler leading from in that second place then. Robbie Stapleford, the Colville man with the Profile Racing Cupra Leon, and as the cars now make the run up towards the right hander of Clark Curve for the last time, checkered flag should be at the ready. Rob Butler accelerating his way up towards the timing line. Stapleford is right on his tail. Jack Keithley has dropped back a little bit in third place, but it's going to be a win for Rob Butler, who comes across the line victorious. Robbie Stapleford takes second, Jack Keithley third. Fourth goes to Max Bird, Dave Marshall fifth. Mike Epps recovers for sixth ahead of Callum Newsham, Max Goff, Dave Newsham, who led more laps than anybody and gets a paltry ninth. Senna Proctor ending up in 10th place. Still they come. Jordan Brennan 11th. Ryan Elliott is set for 12th. Remember, it's the top 15 for points. Craig Keeble 13th. Miles Lacey should be on for 14th. He is. And what about 15th? Charlie Oliver, the last point? Or has that changed on the last lap? It goes Charlie Oliver's way. Wow. Just as we expected in a reverse grid race. The touring cars, action all the way. And provisionally, Rob Butler takes the win. Robbie Stapleford second ahead of Jack Keithley. Max Bird fourth, Dave Marshall fifth, and Mike Epps sixth from Callum Newsham. Max Goff, then Dave Newsham, Senna Proctor, Jordan Brennan with Ryan Elliott, Craig Keeble, Miles Lacey, and Charlie Oliver rounding out the points scorers. Fantastic racing. Some may feel a bit hard done by with the contact, but as a spectacle, it was fantastic. Jack Keithley, as we were suggesting, Andy, at the start of the day, could well be a star. Well, he's proved to be just so with two podiums for his first time in this type of sim experience. Front-wheel drive touring cars, a really mighty job. Robbie Stapleford taking second, and Rob Butler, blimey, he must have felt like a magnet at times, being hit from all sides, cars attracted to him left, right and centre, but he stood his ground very resolutely indeed to take that race win.
Yes, right then. I've caught my breath. I've gathered my thoughts. I'm going to try and have a chat with our podium finishers, I think, who are waiting to hear. We're waiting to hear from them now, I should say. So let's have a chat with, first of all, third place finisher Jack Keithley. Well, Jack, you said in race one you were struggling to stay awake. I don't think you had the same problem in that one, did you?
No, not at all. That was absolutely frantic. I mean, for a while, not much was happening, but then I noticed suddenly the top two had compressed to everyone else behind them, so it was like you took any chance you get to overtake someone, and it was completely manic, but it was great fun.
Very great fun to watch, a little bit physical at times, but that's the key to these reverse grid races, isn't it? You know, we saw two different approaches, I think, between you and Mike Epps. Mike sort of went hell for leather, really started pushing his way through the field, and ultimately, for naught, he ended up finishing down in fifth position, whereas you kind of took your time in the early stages, let the race come to you, and that can sometimes be the winning formula, can't it?
Correct. I saw in race one how the pace of everyone else was compared to myself, and I knew while I wasn't as good as Dave and Mike, I felt like I was better than everyone else, on tyres, so I knew if I could just pace with a bit, I could be there at the end to pick up better than 7th or 8th, which I was for a majority of the race. So, but yeah, you got to be physical, and I also apologise to Callum Newsham. I tried to do an undercut him. I think I gave him the tiniest little clip, So I'll talk to him afterwards. But other than that, it was really, really good fun.
Yeah, great fun to watch again, and congratulations on third. I haven't done the maths yet, but I reckon that's going to put you in a pretty strong position championship-wise moving forward, so congratulations, a really good day's work.
Very much.
Jack Heathley then, third place in both of the races today at Brands Hatch. Second place was Robbie Stapleford, and Robbie, I'm going to be completely honest, I've already forgotten how you got there because there was that much going on at the end of the race. Talk us through the last 2 or 3 laps from your perspective.
Me and Senna just started getting on Rob and Dave, and then they started to battle, and then they came back to me and Senna, and then Rob and Dave just came together, and then I got Dave and me. I tried to push Rob away, and then we had like a battle from 1st to 10th, and then they all just came together behind, and me and Rob got away. So yeah.
Now, I think I'm right in saying, reading your commentary pack that you've sent to us, you are, I think, the youngest driver in the series, just 14 years of age. Have you had to pinch yourself a little bit to remind yourself this is real? You know, you're sharing the track with former and indeed current British touring car stars, and you're beating them as well. Yeah,
well, that's a bit good. It's a bit, I've got to be careful because I'm the youngest and I don't want to make myself look bad, so... But it's really good that I'm battling the likes of a BTCC driver, so really enjoying that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we really enjoyed watching you, and congratulations on a really plucky second place there. More to come, hopefully, next time.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
Stuff, 14 years of age, eh? That's incredible. Race winner, though, was Rob Butler. And Rob, that was a very, very lively race. You and Dave almost seemed to be working together in the early stages. You pulled away from the rest of the field, but then we missed on the stream the key moment where you got past him and lost all of that time to the third place gaggle. What happened?
Yeah.
Rob, I think we've lost you. Can you still hear me, Rob?
Can you hear me there, Andy?
Yes, you're back now. Yeah, go on.
I just have to hold my finger on the button here on my steering wheel to pit radio. Coming out of Grain Hill, Dave made a bit of a mistake. I got alongside coming up into the second last section of the lap, and I was just able to squeeze a bit of a gap through, but as I was up the inside, we made some side-to-side contact. I don't know if Dave wasn't expecting me to be there, but he just kept turning, and we made some side-to-side contact, and then I got away, and after that it was a little bit of a British Touring Car Race 3 demolition derby for the last couple of laps, and I was lucky to stay out front, and I
tell you what though, Rob, your car control is second to none. I think I counted 3 consecutive laps where you arrived at Paddock Hill Bend sideways, courtesy of contact from behind. You really did. You were quite lucky, I think, in a way, to hang on, weren't you, given the attention you were being given by people like Dave Newsham?
Yeah, it's something I've always prided myself in a front-wheel drive car, and it's no different on the sim. Once it goes sideways, it's a little bit of balance, the brake pedal and the throttle pedal at the same time. That's the key. But look, it's front-wheel drive touring car racing. If you can't catch a slide after you've had a bit of a tap, especially at a corner like Paddock Hill, it's you're going to struggle to stay on sometimes. So it's something I've worked very hard on throughout my career. When I raced karts through the cars was car control, and it paid off there to keep me in the lead, thankfully.
Yeah, well, fantastic racing from all 3 of you. Congratulations on the race win, Rob, and hopefully we'll see you back on the podium again next time at Donington.
Let's hope so. Thank you very much.
There you go then, our podium finishers from a dramatic and enthralling from Brands Hatch. And David, I think that race, the result of that race at least, really sums up what I love about sim racing. You have in Rob Butler someone with decades of real world racing experience and coaching in recent years, and second place, right on his tail at the end, a 14-year-old kid who's never driven the Brands Hatch circuit in his life in the real world. Sim racing, it really does bring people together, doesn't it? Fantastic.
And not only that as well, but you have, of course, the very nature of just good quality racing. Doesn't matter who's providing it, just as you would like to see in a real world touring car event. Fabulous racing, that's what we've enjoyed. Thoughts on driver of the day after all of that? One vote would be Jack Keithley, another possibly Mike Epps for his race 1 win, another one maybe would be Robbie Stapleford, 14 in their second place. Of course, the sole driver of a Cooper and Leon. So, yeah, decide. What do you think?
Well, Robbie Stapleford definitely is a tempting choice, but I think Jack Keithley, just for solidly going about his business, really, maybe not the most spectacular performance over the 2 races, but a really solid third place. He didn't push any harder than he felt comfortable doing, brought home the points, and then to pick his way through the chaos at the end of race 2 to get another third place. I reckon if he's not in the championship lead, he's going to be very close to it going to Donington. That was a really, really strong performance.
I think I'd go along with that. Yes, your thoughts as well on social media, please, about who you think the driver of the day. But top racing. Now, from Brands Hatch, we go to another venue on the 6th of Feb, which will, again, lend itself to good racing. It is the short circuit, the national circuit at Donington. So next Saturday, the teams will rock up for 2 more spectacular races. And, of course, for that, we will have the ballast to factor in as well. So we'll have the qualifying session with the ballast from today's results championship affected, and 2 good races to look forward to. But Mike Epps, then, and Rob Butler are our provisional victors of the 2 races at Brands Hatch. An excellent way to start the championship season, and we will look forward to more of the same in a week's time when we head to Donington for the second round of what has proved to be a very, very entertaining championship already. The MSL FastR Touring Car eSeries with Power Max Racing, powered by VRRC. It's up and running, and it's only going to get better and better as things get even more competitive. We'll see you next week from Brands Hatch, from Andy McEwan and David Addison. It's goodbye for now.
in between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Marshall gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.